All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all the honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash. Double honors and respect to the elders and to the apostles of the great millstone. Peace and blessing to all Akim that are preaching and teaching this word with 100% truth and sincerity. And unto the men, women, and children that are listening and learning, and unto the Bayath of the Wadah, the elect house of David that is scattered abroad, I give you my utmost and sincere salutations. All right, so this afternoon's lesson is the book of 1 Maccabees Chapter 2. Okay? And Lord willing, it be edifying unto the body and to the few sincere believers and listeners. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So this is the book of 1 Maccabees Chapter 2, verse 1. It says, In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Joarib, from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. And Modin is a city within Judah. Let me see something here. Bear with me one moment. Yes, Modin. It's a town in Israel. So it's located in central Israel, about 35 kilometers southeast of Tel Aviv, west of Jerusalem, and is connected to those two cities via highway. All right, just want to get that real quick. So going back to this right here, this is talking about Mattathias. And it says here that he was a Jew priest who helped spark the Maccabean revolt. And the Maccabean revolt was a Jew rebellion led by the Maccabees against the Seleucid Empire and against Hellenistic influence on the life of the Israelites. The main phase of the revolt lasted from 167 to 160 BCE and ended within the Seleucids in control of Judea. So it sparked the Maccabean revolt against the Hellenistic Seleucid Empire, and Mattathias' stories related to the Deuterocanonical book of 1 Maccabees and in the writings of Josephus. Okay, Mattathias is accorded a central role in the story of Hanukkah. And Hanukkah is one of the high holy days, which is a festival commemorating the recovery of Jerusalem and subsequent rededication of the Second Temple at the beginning of the Maccabean revolt against the Seleucid Empire. And as a result, is named, I'm not going to pronounce that. It's a prayer to Jews add to the grace after meals and during the festivals of 8 days. So going into some history here. So, excuse me. All right, so yes, so Modin was a city in Israel. So it says, in all extant accounts from the Second Temple period, Mattathias was a resident of the rural village in Modin, though it is not clear if he was a native. The account of 1 Maccabees states that he moved away from Jerusalem and settled in Modin. And while the account of Josephus in Antiquities matches the account in Wars, simply states that Mattathias or his father was a priest of a village called Modin, implying that it was his place of origin. Now it says, aside from all that, account of the first Maccabees provides the lineage of Mattathias, stated that he was the son of John and grandson of Simeon, a priest from the order of Joarib. Josephus adds the name of Asmonias to this lineage in both his accounts, and though later rabbinic sources mention Hasmonai as a specific person, Asmonias or Hasmonian was probably meant as a family title. This would lead to Mattathias and his descendants being known as the Hasmonians, being a descendant of Joarib, the first chief of a priestly division mentioned in the book of Chronicles. He was in turn a descendant of Phinehas, the third high priest of Israel. Like many priests, he most probably served in the second temple of Jerusalem, though the sources stating that he was a high priest are relatively late and anachronistic. And he was the father of Judas Maccabees, Eleazar, Alvaron, Simon Thossi, John Gaddi, and Jonathan Aphis. So here we go. The first stage of rebellion. The accounts of the first Maccabees and Josephus largely agree in their description of the oppressive laws the Hellenistic administration enforced on the Jew religion, and the role Mattathias played in opposing them. So 168 to 167 BCE, a series of Seleucid persecutions of traditional Judaism began, spearheaded by King Antiochus IV Epiphanes and possibly high priest Menelaus as well. In 167 BCE, a company of Greek soldiers appeared in Modin with orders to enforce Antiochus's ordinances of sacrificing to the Greek gods. Okay, so now we're going to go and go to the scripts, starting off with First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 1 again. It says, "In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Joarib from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin." Verse 2, he had 5 sons, John called Caddis, Simon called Thassi, Judas who was called Maccabeus, Eleazar called Alvaron, and Jonathan whose surname was Aphis. Excuse me. Verse 6, and when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah in Jerusalem. Verse 7, he said, "Woe is me, wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people, and of the holy city, and to dwell therein, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers." Okay, verse 8, her temple is become as a man without glory. Now, if we go back to First Maccabees chapter 1, so let's see here. Let's see here. Where was I? Actually, no. Before I do that, let's see. Let's see if we're. Yep, this is First Maccabees chapter 1. I'm going to start at, let's see, it's going to be verse 41. It says, "Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. 42, and everyone should leave his laws, so all the heathen agreed, according to the commandment of the king." Okay? So, okay, now reading to verse 43. "Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. Okay, so, the land, the holy city was, given unto the hand of strangers, the heathen as well as the wicked Israelites of that time. In fact, First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 11, it says, "In those days, when went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow." Verse 12, "So this device pleased them well." 13, "Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen." Verse 14, "Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen." Verse 15, "They made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief." So So, as it says in verse 8, her temple has become as a man without glory. Okay, because we were, the holy city was defiled by the inhabitants thereof. Okay, sacrificing, of the king Antiochus Epiphanes' ordinances to sacrifice to the Greek gods. Okay, verse 9. This is Maccabees Chapter 2, verse 9. It says, her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets, her young men with the sword of the enemy. Verse 10, what nation hath not had a part in her kingdom and had gotten her spoils? Okay, so every nation has had their hand in the spoiling of the holy city. and of course the people, the nation, the Israelites. Verse 11, all her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman she is become a bondslave. Verse 12, and behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. Verse 13, to what end therefore shall we live any longer? Verse 14, then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore. So, after seeing the sorry state that the holy city Jerusalem was in, being inhabited by these beasts, it was a great form of disrespect, dishonor. It was basically a tragedy. Verse 15. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice. And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Verse 17, then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Verse 18, now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thine house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. Okay, verse 19, then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments. Verse 20, yet will I and my sons and brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. 21, God most high forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinance. Okay, so even though Antiochus Epiphanes' men came to Mattathias and his and those that followed him and his sons, saying, come and make sacrifices to the Greek gods, so that ye may be numbered amongst the king's friends. But Mattathias stood firm. Okay, he stood firm and told them no. Okay, now going back to this article here on Wikipedia, Mattathias, being an esteemed member of the community, was asked to serve as an example and lead the village and the sacrifice to the pagan deities, while being promised riches and the prestigious title of friend of the king in return. Mattathias refused, and when another Jew stepped forward to do so, Mattathias slew both him and the government official overseeing the sacrifice and rallied his supporters. Okay, now let me get a script here. This is going to be the book of Acts. It's going to be chapter 5. This is the book of Acts, chapter 5. In fact, this is going into let's see, it's going to start at this is when Peter and the other apostles were put in prison for preaching the name of Yahushua. during that time in the ministry. This is going to be at the book of Acts chapter 5. It's going to be let me start at verse 21. This is Acts 5 and 21. It says, "And when they heard that, they entered into the temple early in the morning and taught. But the high priest came, and they that were with him, and called the council together and all the senate of the children of Israel, and sent to the prison to have them bought. But when the officers came and found them not in the prison, they returned and told, saying, The prison truly found will be shut with all safety, and the keepers standing without before the doors. But when we had opened, we found no man within." 24. "But when the high priest and the captain of the temple and the chief priests heard these things, they doubted of them whereunto this would grow." 25. "Then came one and told them, saying, Behold, the men whom ye put in prison are standing in the temple and teaching the people." 26. "Then went the captain with the officers and brought them without violence, for they feared the people lest they should have been stoned." 27. "And when they had brought them, they set them before the council, and the high priest asked them, saying, Did not we straitly command you that you should not teach in this name? And behold, ye have filled Jerusalem with your doctrine, and intend to bring this man's blood upon us." 29. "Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, We ought to obey the Most High rather than men." Okay, so the same thing applies here, regardless of the governing authorities or who's in power, even though we have no power here because we're subject to laws of the society of the nation that's ruling at this time. Yes, to a certain extent we have to obey their laws, but when it comes to to whom we who do we follow, who we believe in, that there's a line that we cannot cross. It's the same thing here with Mattathias and his sons and in the community that followed him. We ought to obey Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai rather than men. Okay. So yeah, this was when the high priest had Peter and the apostles put in a prison. Let me get another precept here. This is going to be Exodus. This is going to be the book of Exodus. It's going to be Exodus chapter 20. Exodus 20 and 1. It says, "And the Most High spake all these words, saying," verse 2, "I am the Lord thy power, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." Verse 3, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." Verse 4, "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, nor any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath the earth." Verse 5, "Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord your power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me." In verse 6, "And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments." Okay, so again, this is the first commandment, that thou shalt not have no other gods before me. Okay? So, no matter, Lord willing, that we are of the elect, that we're not going to allow ourselves to fall or, bend the knee to any other God or power other than Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. Going back to 1 Maccabees Chapter 2, verse 21, it says, Most High forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. Verse 22, we will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left. So basically, no matter what the circumstance, we're not turning our back on the ways of our fathers before us, right? Excuse me. We're not turning our back on Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Verse 23. Now when we had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar, which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. 24. Which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment, wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. 25. Also the king's commissioner, who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. 26. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of the Most High, like as Phinehas did unto Zambri the son of Salam. In fact, you can go to, let's get that. It's going to be the book of, the book of Numbers. The book of Numbers, chapter 25, verse 1. Numbers 25 and 1. And it says, and Israel abode in Shittim, and the people begun to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. Verse 2. And they called the people unto the sacrifice of their gods. And the people did eat and bow down their gods. So, that doesn't mean that Israelites can deal with heathen women. We can deal with any woman we want. We just cannot follow the customs and courtesies and the gods of that woman's nation. Okay? Remember, the man is not supposed to follow the woman is supposed to follow the man. Okay? Verse 3. And Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor, and the anger of the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua was kindled against Israel. And the Lord said unto Moses, take all the heads of the people and hang them up before the Lord against the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may be turned away from Israel. 5. And Moses said unto the judges of Israel, slay ye every one his men that were joined unto Baal Peor. And behold, one of the children of Israel came and bought unto his brethren a Midianitish woman. And remember, the Midianites, that's a Midianite is a so-called Arab. A Midianitish woman in the sight of Moses and in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel, who were weeping before the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. Verse 7. And when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, saw it, he rose up from amongst the congregation and took a javelin in his hand, and he went after the man of Israel into the tent, and thrust both them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel. Okay? So anyone that goes against Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua and his statutes, commandments, judgments, and ordinances and laws, they have to be dealt severely, to be made an example of. Okay? We're supposed to have that same zeal for this law. Verse 9, and let's see. No, that was it, verse 8. Okay. So yeah. Now going back to 1 Maccabees Chapter 2, I left off at verse, this is verse 27. And it says, and Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. 28. So he and his sons fled into the mountains, and left all that ever they had in the city. 29. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there. 30. Both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them. Okay, so the people, they fled with they had that same zeal for the law that Mattathias and his sons did, so they fled, and they left that city with them to dwell in the wilderness. They didn't want to have nothing to do with, the abominable sacrifices and, the heathens and all that. Verse 31, now when it was told the king's servants and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were gone down into the secret place of the wilderness, they pursued them a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day. 33, and they said unto them, let that which you have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live. Verse 34, but they said, we will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day. Okay. Verse 35, so then they gave them the battle with all speed, howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid. 37, but said, let us die all in our innocency. Heaven and earth shall testify for us, that you put us to death wrongfully. So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they slew them with their wives and children and their cattle, to the number of 1,000 people. Okay? So, a lot of people died for, a lot of people died for the commandments of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. And like we said before, there's going to be martyrs in this truth, man. That's why you have to, as Elder Apostle Kabar says, you have to know what you're involved in, man, because this is reality. Eventually, this devil is going to come down with that great wrath. And he knows who we are. He's seen our faces. He knows who we are individually. He's coming for us. And like I said, some of us are going to be martyrs. Some of us are going to have to face death. There's no getting around it. Some of us are going to have to go through with this. Now it says here, verse 39, now when Mattathias and his friends understood hereof, they mourned for them right sore. Verse 40, and one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. Verse 41, at that time therefore they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against them. Neither will we die all, as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places. 42, then there came unto him a company of Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. Okay. Let's see here. Going back to the article here. Let me look up the company of Assyrians. Let's go to Assyrians were an Israelite group during the Maccabean revolt that took place from 167 to 142 BCE. The Assyrians were mentioned 3 times in the book of the Maccabees, the main contemporary sources from the period according to the book of First Maccabees, during the early phase of the anti-Jew decrees and persecution proclaimed by King Antiochus IV Epiphanes. Some Hasidians joined up with Maccabees the Hasmonean as he marshaled forces and allies for his rebellion. Later on, during the term of High Priest Alcimus, some Hasidians apparently trusted Alcimus' promise at first and attempted to negotiate a settlement with the government, but were betrayed and executed. In the book of 2 Maccabees, Judas Maccabeus is described as the leader of the Hasidians, and of them all as troublemakers disrupting the peace, but by Alcimus, a source the book considers untrustworthy and corrupt. Okay, so basically these were mighty men of war that joined the cause to reclaim the temple. Okay. Let's see. And Alcimus was a high priest of Israel for 3 years. He was a moderate Hellenizer who favored the ruling government of the Seleucid Empire and opposed the Maccabean revolt. All right. So going back. Okay. What the hell? All right, so let's see. Now going back, before I continue on here, I'm going to go to the scripture real quick. Go back to the scripture that says, this is 1 Maccabees Chapter 2, verse 43. It says, also, all they that fled from persecution joined themselves unto them, and were a stay unto them. Verse 44, so they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger, and wicked men in their wrath. But the rest fled to the heathen for succor. Verse 45, then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars, and what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. They pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hand. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles, which is talking about the heathen, and out of the hand of the kings. Excuse me. Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. 49. Now when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons, now hath pride and rebuke gotten strength, and the time of destruction, and the wrath of indignation. Verse 50, now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time, so shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name. Okay. Verse 52, was not Abraham found faithful in temptation, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness? Okay. Joseph, verse 53, Joseph in the time of his distress kept the commandment and was made Lord over Egypt. Okay. Do not the scriptures say that a man's ways that please the Lord, he'll make your enemies be at peace with thee? Verse 54, Phinehas, our father, in being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. In verse 55, Yahushua, for fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel. Or, well, this right here, this where it says Jesus here in the Maccabees, it was really talking about Joshua, so I slack you for that one. Excuse me. So he was made a judge in Israel. In verse 56, Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the heritage of the land. In verse 57, David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom. And Elias, which is really Elijah, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven. Verse 59, Ananias, Azarias, and Mishael, which is really Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, by believing, were saved out of the flame. When, if you go back to the book of Daniel, it talked about how these three men, they wouldn't obey the king of Babylon's commandments, which was Nebuchadnezzar, and he had them all thrown into the fire, into that fiery furnace, but they weren't burnt. Okay. Verse 60. Daniel, for his innocency, was delivered from the mouth of lions. Verse 61. And thus consider ye throughout all ages, that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. Okay. So there you go. And also, roughly paraphrasing scripture, the name of the Lord is the strongest tower, the righteous runneth into it and are safe. And also, if the Lord be for us, who could be against us? So these men, Abraham, Joseph, Phineas, Joshua, Caleb, David, Elijah, Ananias, Azarias, and Mishael, which is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Daniel, no matter what hell they went through, they kept their faith in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Okay? And we are to do the same. Verse 62, fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms. So there you go. Basically, dung and worms represents the grave. Okay? 63. Verse 63, today he shall be lifted up, and tomorrow he shall not be found, because he is returned into his dust, and his thought is come to nothings. And roughly paraphrasing scripture again, that the triumph of the wicked is only but for a moment. Okay, it doesn't last forever. 64, wherefore you, my sons, be valiant, and show yourselves men in the behalf of the law, for by it shall you obtain glory. Okay? So, this is where let's see here. This is the truth that we're fighting for here. This is the book of Galatians. This is Galatians chapter 3, starting at verse 5. It says, he therefore that ministereth to you the Spirit, and worketh miracles among you, doeth he it by the works of the law, or by the hearing of faith? Verse 6, even as Abraham believed the Most High, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. Verse 7, know ye therefore that they which are of faith are the same are the children of Abraham. Verse 8, and the scripture, foreseeing that the Most High would justify the heathen through faith, preached before the gospel unto Abraham, saying, in thee shall all nations be blessed. Okay? Verse 9, so then they which be of faith are blessed with faithful Abraham. And who's the seed of Abraham? The Israelites. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the 12 patriarchal sons of Jacob. Okay? Verse 10, for as many are as are of the works of the law are under the curse. For it is written, cursed is everyone that continueth not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them. Well, here it says here in verse 1, but that no man is justified by the law in the sight of the Most High. It is evident, for the just shall live by faith. In verse 12, and the law is not of faith, but the man that doeth them shall live in them. Okay? So, by doing the work, and faith without works is dead. You need to do the work, and that's how you maintain, and that's how you show your faith, is by doing the work and keeping the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of your ability, and looking only towards and calling upon Yahweh Bashim Yahushai and no other name of these false idols or gods. Going back to 1 Maccabees Chapter 2, verse 65, and it says, and behold, I know that your brother Simon is a man of counsel. Give ear unto him always. He shall be a father unto you. Verse 66, as for Judas Maccabeus, he hath been mighty and strong. Even from his youth up, let him be your captain, and fight the battle of the people. Verse 67, take also unto you all those that observe the law, and avenge ye the wrong of your people. 68, recompense fully the heathen, and take heed to the commandments of the law. 69, so he blessed them, and was gathered to his fathers. Verse 70, and he died in the 146th year, and his sons buried him in the sepulchre of his fathers at Modin, and all Israel made great lamentation for him. Okay, going into the 3rd chapter of the book of Maccabees, this is where it talks about the valor and fame of Judas Maccabeus, how he overthrew the forces of Samaria and Syria. Antiochus sendeth a great power against him. He and his fall to fasting and prayer and are encouraged. So this is going to be talking about, Judas Maccabeus, the Lord raising up Judas Maccabeus. Okay. That's all I had for this. This was the book of 1 Maccabees, the 2nd chapter. Lord willing, excuse me, just had a terrible cough. And Lord willing that I was edifying to the body and to the few sincere believers and listeners. And with closing, I would like to give all the honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors and respect to the elders and to the apostles, the great millstone. Peace and blessing to all Akim that are preaching and teaching His word with 100% truth and sincerity. And unto the men, women, and children that are listening and learning. And unto the Bayatha de Wada, the elect house of David that is scattered abroad. I give you my utmost and sincere salutations. See you in the next lesson, Lord willing. Kwam Yasharala, Wa Abba Babal, Shalom, Barakathon.